The Student to Entrepreneur Gap, a discussion of small business content marketing techniques. My name is Paul Cotter. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Stukent, and I'm so happy to be hosting this event today. As a special gift for everyone attending today, we want to offer you free instructor access to our courseware and Simternships for the following topics: entrepreneurship, content marketing, and digital marketing. These bundles are a comprehensive package featuring hundreds of instructor and student resources, including groundbreaking simulations, continuously updated courseware, and a wealth of engaging assignments and auto-graded quizzes. Everything is designed to seamlessly integrate theory with real-world experience and equip your students with the skills and confidence needed for success. So go ahead and click on the link below to request your free instructor access. While you're taking a second to request access, let me introduce and welcome to the stage our speakers, Jen Riley and Nick Matar. Dr. Jen Riley is an award-winning author and marketing professor at Vanderbilt. Her research spans marketing, professional sales, and entrepreneurship, investigating consumer interactions with social media and digital marketing, technology's role in the professional sales process, and innovative teaching techniques for student engagement and soft skill development. As a professor, entrepreneur, and consultant, Dr. Riley is dedicated to guiding students in building skills and discovering their passions, assisting clients of all sizes in marketing and sales, and helping startups and small businesses succeed. She enjoys movies, competitive public speaking, and cherishing family moments in her spare time. Nick Matar teaches digital marketing and social media courses at Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. He has taught digital marketing for nearly 10 years and wrote Content Marketing Strategies, Planning, Creating, and Distributing Content in 2021. He is also a business owner and consultant, working with companies around the world to enhance their digital marketing strategies through innovative content. Nick has recently focused his work on generative AI platforms, helping businesses utilize this new technology to save time, money, and resources. Jen and Nick, why don't you hop on stage? Hi, Jen.
Hey there, how are you?
Great. How are you,
Awesome.
Nick?
Hello, I'm doing well. How's everybody else?
Doing good, doing good. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Nick. Super excited to dive into this topic area. So, a lot of students will tell me like they want to own their own business. And we know like realistically, there are only so many companies students can work at when they're graduating. So a lot of times the student will find themselves in a smaller business or a medium-sized business, or they'll start doing their own thing, whether it's full-time or part-time. So I really just wanted to help professors, students, peer or industry people kind of know what this content marketing thing is and how to leverage digital marketing as a whole through their content and think about that from a strategic point. So thank you so much for being here, Nick. I want to get us started with just talking about the idea of what is content marketing. How is that different from digital marketing? What is included? What's kind of not included? So anything to add, and what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for thinking of me for this. This is one of my focus areas, and I know when Paul gave the intro, we're both professors, entrepreneurs, consultants. So there's a lot of experience, I know, between the two of us and the trials and tribulations of being a business owner. In the world of content marketing, my kind of area of, I don't know if I'd call it expertise, but where I've done the most work, if I were to define the term content marketing, it would be the creation and sharing of material that doesn't really promote your brand, but really you're trying to stimulate interest in what you have to offer. And for me, I think that is the great equalizer between entrepreneurs and established businesses. Because if you think about where we are in society today, there are more businesses today than there ever were in the history of the world, right? Every year there are more and more. LLCs being formed, more corporations, and there's only so many customers, there's only so many consumers. So how do you cut through the noise and stand out? And that's where content marketing is something that anybody can do, as long as you have a little bit of creativity and a little bit of ability to create content. And if I'm thinking about students and wanting to start a company, like so many students, at least in my classes, everybody's got a side gig, everybody's got a side hustle. And I think in universities and colleges today, we're at a very interesting inflection point, because students are walking that fine line between, yes, I do want a job, I want to go find a job at an established business, but I also want to start my own company on the side. And I think part of that is just more entrepreneurial spirit. I think you could look at a ton of reasons for why that is, but also I think part of it is students are in this space psychologically where they think one job and one income is not enough. And so they want this other area where they can do more of what they love, make a little bit of money on the side. And I know from my own personal experience as a millennial, I do kind of feel the same way, where we have technology advances more rapidly than anything else. And not to get too philosophical here, but it does seem like these different areas of business are moving faster than others. And so students, established professionals like us, we're at a point where we're trying to do both, have a full-time job, professor, and also have a company where we can really take advantage of our skills. And content marketing is a great opportunity to do a lot of that without spending all day doing that. So there's your long-winded answer for you.
So when we talk about content marketing, like, I know what comes to mind for me. What comes to mind for you? Like, what counts when somebody sits down there like, I want to do content marketing? Where do they start?
Well, that's the $1 million question. Where do you start? And honestly, the answer is anywhere. I think the key is just to start. It's it's one of those situations where there's no rule book, there's no official. It's kind of like starting a business. Actually, there are plenty of books, sure, but you don't really know what it's like starting a business or starting to create content until you actually do it. And you can have all of the knowledge in the world. You could read all of the stuff that you and I have written over the years, content marketing, entrepreneurship, all these different topics in digital marketing. But until you actually do it, you're not actually doing it. And for me, when I think about content marketing, I think of really two different sides of the coin. One is social media. If you go to TikTok right now, I guarantee within about 10 minutes of mindlessly scrolling like we all do, you'll find something from a creator that has you're going to watch it. You're not going to think that there's anything of it, but there is a business component to it. The one example I have is there's one of the food influencers that I follow. He creates short little videos almost on a daily basis, making these older recipes. And somehow, for about 3 seconds, he wedges in a little promo for his book, his cookbook, into the video, right? Link in bio, check it out, boom, sales. And 99% of the video you're remembering is this really fun and engaging type. But then on the other side, there's still a little tiny pitch that you're probably not going to do anything the first time around, but maybe the second, third, or fourth, and get interaction with this creator or his content. You might go and check out that book. On the other side of content marketing, I think of more, I would call it traditional, but it's really the difference between like right now and what I first saw that inspired me to write this courseware is in the late 2010s. You saw a lot of companies that created blogs and other online presences where they would educate people, not entertain as much, but more educate people on something tangentially related to what they do, and go read it, check out the step-by-step instructions, and then you could try it But if it didn't work, you're going to be more likely to go to that company whose blog post you read to do it for you, rather than the reverse, which is just kind of like do it yourself. And obviously, you can say what you want about what you will about where content marketing is today and how people consume media online. But really, if we think about modern content marketing and what has been relevant over the last decade or so, it really starts with consumers seeking out information. They want to solve a problem that they have on their own using the internet, endless resources. They come upon something, some sort of resource, they learn something, but it's also a brand that is showing them how to do it. As a result, there's brand awareness building up with the consumer, and suddenly they are more likely to become a customer. And when you think about entrepreneurship and bringing it back to the topic that we have here, this is an area where anybody can create any of that content. There just needs to be some strategy and some focus put behind it. And also a realization, what is the end goal for you? And once you bring all of that together, content marketing can be a legitimate marketing channel for you.
So we said a couple different things I want to zero in on. From a student perspective, do they need to have the LLC and established business and brand and not kind of all those like sexy aspects, or can content marketing be done on an individual basis? And if so, to what end?
So on the content marketing side, I think you can certainly do it on an individual basis. A lot of YouTubers, content creators, they've started with their own personal brand. And I went the LLC route. I'd be interested to hear your side of this too. I created a business about 6 years ago and used that as kind of like my area to build my experience as a content marketer, as a content creator, in digital marketing in general. But also, if you think about what you need to succeed in content marketing, you really don't need it. I mean, it's great if you're creative and if you're good at writing or how to create video, but at the same time, a lot of that is just learned from doing it, experience. The thing that as much controversy as has been around him recently, I do think Mr. Beast had a fairly interesting point when they asked him the question of, hey, how do you get started as a content creator? And he said, just start. He said, if you never start, you're never going to get good at it. So you just have to do it. It's kind of like the same with, in general, content creation, but also being a business owner. We can all probably point to people who are like, yeah, like I'm going to start this business. I'm going to start this side hustle. I'm eventually going to do it. But they never do it. And now at this point, you just got to do it. You got to step up. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this as well, from an entrepreneurship side. Not that you need to go file an LLC today, but at least start putting together the business plan is kind of what I've thought is a good first step. And business plan as a concept itself might be a little outdated, but putting together a strategy for how you're going to use your skills to make some income.
Yeah, I definitely think, a business plan is key. I think a lot of people get caught up in jargon and thinking like what it was in the 80s or 90s, or we'll age ourselves, even the 2000s. But I think at the end of the day, you still need some sort of plan. You need to know some fundamental stuff for the business structure before you can kind of get started on a lot of things. Is that necessary for content marketing? Not necessarily, from my perspective. So it's interesting to hear yours as well. I feel like content marketing could very well be a way that somebody is branding themselves as a professional, as a person in the working world, and to hold that line of what you want to do for your main or 9 to 5 or your full-time job versus if you want a side hustle or if you don't want a side hustle. I think we are in a place now socially, professionally, socially, that you change jobs, right? So like you are the person that you're branding and you have this expertise, so you have this viewpoint that is unique. And that's where we kind of blend into like the whole influencer aspect of things. Like you don't have to monetize that aspect of things of your content marketing as an individual or even as an entrepreneur that wants to do a business eventually. Sometimes it could just be for your personal brand, for you to get other full-time job opportunities where you are working for somebody and you are not necessarily working for yourself. But on the flip side, it is also very useful from an entrepreneurship perspective, because especially like when we talk about the solopreneur journey, like it's just you. You are trying to figure out how to champion your t-shirt line or your lawn care business. So like being able to put that stuff together and put that out there is great when you have a strategy, because that kind of drives what information you put out there. To have that strategy, it's good to have that business plan and that idea of what exactly you're going to do or how this fits into the overall scope of what you want and the goals and the end goals. And then I tell students all the time in digital marketing, like, you need a destination. You're inviting somebody into a digital marketing ecosystem, but what's the goal here? How are you moving them through this customer journey in the process as you go through? And I think that has a lot of overlap with content marketing.
Yeah.
On the idea of planning, like, I know a lot of clients will come to me and they're like, oh yeah, like we have this profile, we pay for this email subscription to, you know, HubSpot or whoever. We have people that signed up for SMS text, but we don't really know what to put out there. And we know, like, students will ask me about the idea of a content calendar, but I find that people are really struggling with the what. Okay, we know it's like a PDF or a white paper. We know it's like social media content. It could be like a webinar. Like, it could be all these different things. How do you suggest that small businesses or individuals figure out what to talk about?
This is, I guess, an interesting segue into generative AI. I mean, the first thing I personally do is I'll do a search online to look for related topics. What's related to your expertise? And I try to break it down into pillars and look at it from that perspective. But this is an opportunity to use generative AI resources as well. In my most recent update to the content marketing courseware, I added a section in every chapter about how to utilize generative AI for the various elements of content marketing. And the theme that I kind of found, I didn't intend, I talk about goals like I did, or strategy. I did not plan this out beforehand, but I found myself at the end figuring out that in most cases, I'm not having generative AI just do the content creation for me. I'm sure that day will come, but right now it's just about ideas. It's helping to come up with fresh ideas in a specific topic. And, you know, say what you will about something like ChatGPT, but it can help stimulate your creativity and get you thinking. You might be in a rut, and one of the best lines that I learned that I heard at ProfCon last year was, the one thing that ChatGPT does more than anything else is it helps you avoid the dreaded blank page. There's nothing worse than opening a Word doc and starting at zero, just like, whoa, how do I start? And even if you do start, you type a couple sentences, I don't know where to go from there. And in terms of thinking about content creation as well, you know, I wouldn't lean on ChatGPT to go much further than ideas, but you can go back to that well for new and insightful recommendations. But you know, related to that is, I like to go to other social media sites and to see what the conversation is. I like to go to Reddit. You could even, it's outdated at this point, but something like Quora is where people ask questions and people are legitimately wondering about things. But at the same time, you need to have, and like you said, you need to have an idea, you need to have a direction, you need to have a focus. And also, what's the point of all of it, right? Say you do get all these ideas, you need to have a very specific goal that content is supposed to achieve. And I mean, I wouldn't say, any single video is supposed to sell. But from a teaching perspective, what I tell my students is, you need to have a goal in mind with this content. And if it's not to convert, if it's not to become a customer, then you need to map out, okay, what happens after that? Is that, say you do get them to subscribe, like your example as a consultant, like somebody subscribes to text alerts. Then what happens after that? Because I am pretty shocked at like how many businesses today don't connect all the dots. They don't go from that first interaction to a conversion, whatever that is, becoming a customer. So if you're like creating content, you just need to keep thinking about, okay, how do I connect the dots to get the person who's reading this and engaged and interested? How do I get them to eventually become part of this community, this customer base that I have?
Yeah, so I went to ChatGPT and told it I want to start content marketing for my personal brand. Where should I start? And I think, ironically enough, it's mimicking a lot of the things that we're kind of saying. Like, well, one, you need to define your brand, right? That's very similar, nuanced differences, and the scale, of course, is different from saying like, hey, do a business plan, but defining your personal brand would be very similar to a business plan. Setting some clear goals, for example, and what we want out of this, like what is our audience? How are we matching that? And then what's the goal? Where do we want this to go ultimately? Choosing those content pillars, almost word for word what you said, right? Like having those buckets of content and where I want to talk about different things. What is the plan? How are we taking them through that cycle? Choosing the platforms, right? So we have all these digital marketing platforms that you can use to leverage your content marketing. And I would venture to say you could also do it offline as well. It will look different, but that's what we did in the 80s. So like that kind of idea. So we have our kind of brand, and we have it in mind. As an entrepreneur, you're like counting every dollar, right? We talk a lot about runway in the book or in the courseware, and what that really looks like, and making sure that you have enough dollars to do what you're trying to do. So you're very monetarily focused. How do you advise that students, recent graduates, business owners, and students working at small to medium-sized businesses step back from that to try to create content to sell without selling?
Well, the way that I mean, I don't like putting it out there that often, but because it kind of goes in the face of what we're doing with our courseware. But there are endless free resources available, and in terms of creating the content, what are the resources that you can use? Even generative AI programs, there's thousands of them at this point. There are 6,000, I think, the last I looked on Futurepedia, and like, sure, half of them are probably crap, but there's a lot of really interesting tools that you can use that help. Again, they're not going to do it for you, but the way that I approach it with my students is, hey, if there's something that you can't do, or that you're not good at, or that it's going to take you way too long, or that it's going to be too expensive, that's where you can look to AI outside of the ideas and the creativity. Let's say you're like, for me, I am not a designer. I am not one. I mean, sure, if you gave me an infographic template, I could probably fill it in. But if you're looking for graphics to support your social media strategy, right, that's where you can look at AI and use something like DALL-E or Midjourney to extend your brand and create these really intricate, different pieces of content that can help you at no cost. And yeah, it's going to take a couple prompts, it's going to take a couple tries, but at least at that point, you don't have to worry about the financial investment. And there are some tools that some AI tools that I do believe are worth the investment, but none of them are super expensive. Some are like $20, $30 a year. And I do think if there's one thing as an educator that I like to tell my students, because knowing that so many of them are entrepreneurs, yeah, we need to be cheap. We need to be frugal as business owners because we are counting all those dollars. But if you find a tool that you think is truly, truly useful and genuinely helpful to you, and it's a minimal cost, then at that point, just think about how much, like, you could equate, okay, $30 a year, spread that out across 12 months, you're looking at a couple of bucks, and think about how much time and money it's saving you if you were to go an alternative route. So that's kind of how I look at it. But the other way too is you ought to, at first, you're not going to know what your content is worth. Over the years, I've created hundreds of pieces of content, right? Written, video, social media posts, things like that. And even now it's hard to really put a dollar value on it. But the way I look at it is, hey, if the one right person sees this and, reaches out, wants to do a demo or get a quote or something, that could be worth tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars down the line as a B2B person. And that's kind of how I go back to it from a B2B standpoint. It's like, hey, this could be the piece of content that lands a huge client. From a B2C side, similar situation. This could be the piece of content that gets shared far and wide and leads to tons of sales and lots of new customers on my online store. There's that, I don't want to call it hope because it's more than hope, right? But eventually there will be that content that happens, that is the one that for one reason or another is the thing that works and resonates. And as long as you're following the best practices in content marketing, a lot of which are outlined in the book, then you're going to be in a better position to reach that than the alternative. If you're just out there not doing anything, if you're not creating content, how is anybody going to find you to begin with? So I look at it as the foundation of marketing in a small business world. You don't have to spend much money, a couple bucks here or there to create content, but otherwise, just know you gotta spend a little bit of money to make a lot.
I always say that, like, I'm a professional sales teacher and researcher. The thing that sales gets a bad rep because people internalize like a car salesperson, no shade to car salespeople, but that idea of being pushy and giving something, like trying to convince you to get something that you don't want to get, right? That's what people associate with selling. In reality, sales should be consultative. It should be solving a problem. It should be giving you some sort of value. It should be enhancing your life in some way. I look at content marketing in a very similar way. But also that's why a lot of people start businesses. That's why a lot of entrepreneurs are in it. They needed something, they wanted something, they saw a gap in the marketplace, and they decided to fill it with their business. So in many cases, there is some sort of secret sauce or something that they're bringing to the table to solve a problem, some sort of value proposition, a unique selling point, all of those words and jargon that we use in marketing for why should anybody care? Why should anybody want your stuff? For me, content marketing is a vehicle of how you get there, how you communicate that value to the end consumer in a tangential way without saying like, hey, buy this thing, buy this thing, buy this thing. This thing is amazing. Buy this thing, buy this thing, buy this thing. Because that doesn't do anything like that. We're in a world of capitalism. Everybody is telling you at every point in time to buy something. You're getting all these ads from places. I just saw that ChatGPT is now going to have ads. Like, you are constantly being marketed to, but we're also in an information age. You get information, but you're also being marketed to. Like, that is an element, but that's the negative element of content marketing, in my opinion. Content marketing should lead with the value and then have the pipeline availability for conversion to that purchase in an ideal world. For me, that's how I manage or encourage students to look at content marketing. from your perspective, is there anything that a small business needs to do for content marketing that's different from a bigger company?
Well, I don't know if I would say different, but I do think most larger businesses have, at least from what the businesses that succeed with content marketing they're leaving the corporate brand at the door, and they're coming in with influencers, with individuals, with actual people that are personifying the brand and are trying to make that connection with the viewer. Small businesses kind of have to do the same thing. They need to really show that the human, authentic side of themselves. 5 to 10 years ago, big brands didn't do that. That was not a thing, right? That's where small businesses could really thrive, because you'd have one person build their personal brand. They were the brand, and it was easier for people to relate to them when they'd see them on social media. They'd see them on YouTube. Now, today, I do think there is still a corporate feel to what big brands are doing, especially on TikTok. The popular one has recently, the one that I watch a lot, is Chipotle. They just have influencers go out and create all this content for them, which is really smart on their side. But if you're a smaller competitor to Chipotle, you're the mom and pop burrito joint down the street, how do you compete with that? And it's really, if you think about most small businesses, the advantages they have over corporate, in addition to all the financial side, is the people. You might have 1 or 2 people that are running a company, and it's just easier to relate to them than the big box companies. And so they just need to lead with authenticity and the human side, human element. What's the human, what's the part that's going to relate to the viewers? And it's kind of like you see that in PR, the stuff that newsrooms are going to pick up are more about people, not like a giant company announcement. And the other thing that is in sales, relationship building. That's how you can get to know people, and how, if you're a small business and you have that burrito place down the street, right, and you've established relationships with people in the community, they're going to be a lot more likely to come to you because they know you, they trust you, they want to support you, over a massive corporation that puts, I'm just kind of generalizing here, but I think most would agree, most corporations, like, the bottom line is all that they care about. That's what keeps the company running. And again, I don't want to sound too, anti-corporation here, but small businesses have a very strong, advantage in terms of just being a little bit more personable and a little bit more successful in the one-on-one setting.
And you have to be small before you get big, right? Like, all these businesses that are popping up, and the number of businesses in the US, like, everybody isn't big. Small to medium-sized businesses kind of run, they're prominent. I won't say they run the world, but they're prominent, right? We have these big major conglomerates and the corporations and all of that, but at the same time, you have a lot of small businesses. So trying to really get through the noise is definitely a hard task. Any resources that you can advise for small business owners, entrepreneurs, students transitioning into the world to kind of self-educate? We know it's a lot of stuff out there, your courseware, my courseware. How can they find resources to do content marketing well?
The number one thing I would say, and it's not something they can get in any courseware, is to utilize LinkedIn for these professional, educational, they're not even educational on purpose, but like influencers and leaders on social media, that what they post is how to succeed with these. There's people on LinkedIn. There's one person in particular, like, he's all about the LinkedIn algorithm and how to get around it, how to figure out how to take advantage, and how to social sell. There's another person on LinkedIn who all he does is test out the new AI platforms. He tells you which ones are good and which ones are bad. which ones you can use for specific use cases. And, for me, I don't spend as much time, using these platforms as I used to. Like, I use something AI every day, but it's not for very long. It's for a couple of minutes. But I can just log on to LinkedIn, and my feed is such now where I could just scroll for a while and learn a lot of new tips and tricks that I had no idea worked before. And in this digital world, it's always changing. What I learned 5 years ago on digital marketing, 75% of that is probably of no use anymore. The foundations are there. The 25% of those marketing principles that will always apply, that's the foundational side. But you think about demographics of something like Facebook, the use case for X/Twitter, how Instagram has evolved, right? Those are all things, those change on a regular basis. And I really think that it's important for anybody looking for more resources, just as to start with the influencer side, learn from the other influencers that are experiencing it in real time. Then after that, the other thing I would say is generative AI is still there. It's still useful. I always tell people to start with Futurepedia. That's futurepedia.io, and they just have thousands of AI sites. It's kind of like where you go to find AI to do something. Yeah, a lot of the sites aren't going to work. They're not going to be useful. But I found a lot of them that are useful, are really helpful, and have saved me a lot of time over the years. There's all sorts of ethical questions and concerns and privacy things that are important to check, but that you got to start somewhere. And if you want some free things that can help you on your entrepreneurial and content marketing journey, I would say it's those two things: AI platforms and following the influencers that provide advice on things like that.
Yeah, I like that. I think a lot of times students think influencer and then they think of a consumer facing influencer. They don't necessarily think of influencers for business resources or entrepreneurship or marketing or content marketing. So I think that's definitely a good tip. What I would say is the planning, right? I think you might not learn how to leverage this specific thing. Like, I think we're on ChatGPT 4.0 maybe in a courseware or in a book, but you still get a lot of value from those things, knowing the fundamentals, putting some of those pieces together, understanding. Like I told my students yesterday, I understand that each one, like some of this seems repetitive. We're talking about digital marketing strategy. We're talking about all the different platforms. It all goes back to who your target audience is, how you want to engage them, where you're going to engage them, what is your value proposition. It all goes back to that. And I think that different courses or different resources like textbooks or regular books or podcasts or audiobooks all help you identify that. The other key thing that I would share with both faculty and students is that you cannot ever really stop learning, especially if you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're in the digital marketing space. Things are going to change. Like I had somebody come and say, like, okay, I want you to share some marketing tactics with me. I want marketing strategies to grow my business. And I was like, that's really not how it works. Like I can't just pull a Band-Aid from, the repository and say like, all right, this is exactly what you need. It is custom. You have to be able to strategize and think and then apply the fundamentals that you know. It's harder to do that if you don't know those fundamentals. So I would say like keep learning, keep that dedication to being in the space and learning things, whether you're picking up what other people are putting down from a consumption perspective or whether you're trying it. Because Nick is right. At the end of the day, you have to try some of this stuff, because until you try it, you never know what you know or really what you don't know. But having those fundamentals and having a plan when you try will make it a lot more meaningful, and the data that you collect from that will actually mean something versus it being more arbitrary. Last thing for you, Nick, I know you did the 90-day challenge on LinkedIn. I'm anticipating your results. Can you give us a high level preview? So the audience listening, Nick posted on LinkedIn every single day for 90 days straight. We want to know, let us in a little bit. What did you see? What did you learn?
The first thing is that LinkedIn on its own has very limited analytics that you can use for personal posts.
Yep.
So I am doing what I can with what I could pull down. Having said that, I've got three main takeaways. Two of them I've already shared on subsequent posts, but the three big takeaways. One, using a third-party social media scheduler like Hootsuite or Sprout, it does kill your reach. Not kill, but it decreases your reach. I saw about a 20% decrease in reach and engagement when I just posted from a third-party platform for over a week. I think there needs to be more research done on that because a lot of it depends on what you're sharing and what's happening. But I tried very hard to ensure that all of the content was equal, like there were no spikes, there were no mass, like I had a couple things over the 90 days that were big announcements for me that were going to do good no matter what. Right. But they weren't. So I tried to find like a 10-day period where everything would be kind of the same. And without any anomalies, right? No total duds, no really successful posts. They were all 20% less in both impressions and engagements. But then the second thing is that, and you might think it's related to this, is that you need to engage with other people and other pages and other posts. I did do that for the page. It's not like I scheduled a Hootsuite post and then walked away. Like I would post it from Hootsuite and then engage. I found on the days that I engaged,
never set it and forget it. When you're working for yourself, when you're in corporate, never set it and forget it. That's a big, big, big no-no. If you don't take anything else away from this, don't do that. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah. Second point, if from a personal side, from a company page, this is a little bit harder. But what you got to do is go and engage with other people, engage with other posts, leave comments. Liking is not enough. You got to actually comment. I did the first 30 days or so. I would leave every day 3 comments before I would post on my own. Then later in the last month, I spent about 2 weeks where I would only leave 1 comment, sometimes 2. And my impressions and engagements went down. From what I have found so far, I'm at about a 30% decrease there. That's the only difference that I had, is that the only variable that changed was the number of comments that I was leaving on other people's posts, which was pretty shocking because then at the end, very end of the challenge, for a couple of days, I was leaving like 10, 8 to 10. And my impressions didn't go up that much, but my engagements were a lot higher. My engagement rate actually almost doubled, but I'm still looking at. I don't know if that's actually the thing. But then the third finding, weekend posts simply won't work. Like late night posts I've seen have worked, but weekend posts just don't do it. I posted every Saturday and Sunday for 3 months. And of the, 24 posts, I think that was, over the 90 days, 3 of them had, I had over the 90 days, I had like a mean and median numbers of like impressions and reach and engagements. 3 of those 24 posts were above average for me. All the others were below average. And I was pretty unsurprised by that, but it just kind of, I don't know, it kind of confirmed what I was expecting, is that part of it too is that people got to be online. LinkedIn is not going to put your personal posts out to everybody all like days, weeks later. And I guess the extra tidbit though that I did find is that I still have people engaging with those posts from that 90 days today. So there are people still seeing it. I don't know if it's from the feed. I don't know if they're going to my profile, but I do randomly see people still engaging. And it's been pretty interesting to see just kind of how that's happened. Now, I've since taken a break. I posted a couple times since then, but I'm going to get back on the horse after the holidays and post a bit more regularly. But the holidays is where I'll be really putting together the actual findings of all this whole thing. Because there's more than just that, but those are the big 3 takeaways that I think are actually applicable for people.
Got it. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Hopefully our conversation will help a student, an alumni, recent grad, or a faculty member with the connection between the digital marketing, content marketing, and entrepreneurship. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. See you later.